Hello farmers and aspiring farmers, thank you for tuning in to yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agri Business in support of Vision 2030. I'm on my way to Mutoko to Gwiranenzara Irrigation Scheme, where we are going to make a follow-up on onion production by Mr. Nyikayaramba, who's going to be establishing 3 million onions this year. At this point in time, I've taken the liberty of inviting Elizabeth Mukojo Musimi, a seasoned agronomist working with NutriMaster and Optichem here in Zimbabwe. She's always interacting with farmers in our country, be it in tobacco farming, horticulture, or field crops in general. She does interact with them and has a vast amount of knowledge when it comes to nutrition and disease control. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us today.
Always a pleasure to join you, Wazanai.
As we get into this discussion, Liz, let us begin with the nutrition of onions. What are the soil types that support onion production, even beginning from seedbed establishment up to the transplanting stage?
Thank you, Wazanai, for that question. So the most important thing when it comes to onion production is to choose the right soils, like you just said. So we need a soil that is well drained with a pH of around 5.5 to 6 because that pH is conducive for the soil to be able to release the nutrients that the onion plant actually requires. So that's the most important thing. What is the pH at? And that's the first thing. If the pH is off, we need to come in with liming and make sure the pH is in the right range. And also you find that if the pH is lower, if it's acidic, you now have toxicity issues with other micronutrients, the other trace elements, the likes of aluminium. You have aluminium toxicity if you've got a low pH, and then you find that your onion is not performing. You've done everything right, but just because your pH is not right, you start having toxicity issues. So it's really important for a farmer to get the pH right. Then the next thing is to ensure that the soil, I've said it has to be all drained. You have to have a depth of around 20 centimeters. Okay. So that's important because your bulb needs room to be able to go down and to form the bulb that you're going to get at the end of the season. So it's really important for the depth to be there as well. And then we now start talking of the nutrition. I know we talk about soil tests, so I'm not going to let it out today again. We'll talk about it. Soil tests, we need to know what's in the soil first, and then we come in with the nutrition, what is required. For a good onion crop, depending on variety, you need about 180 kgs of nitrogen, around 100 of phosphorus, and 180 to 190 of potassium. So then when you've got your soil test report, now you know what's in the soil and you know what you're targeting to get, and then you can come in with the math and do the balance. Okay. So it's really important for you to see what's in the soil first. So that's the first thing that I would then encourage if a farmer wants to get into onion production to look at.
Moving right along, looking at nutritional requirements, what are the micro or macronutrients are we looking at that make onion production or development profitable and successful?
NPK, those are the macronutrients. So you find that the basal fertilizers have got a lot of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And we are planning to apply as much phosphorus as possible at planting. And normally, because the phosphorus is used for the root, and this onion, we are feeding the root technically. So we want to ensure that the phosphorus is there so that the crop can have a good start. So the phosphorus has to come in with the basal fertilizer. And you find that most of the NPKs will have a high phosphate level. The phosphorus fertilizers or the basal fertilizers that are available in the market, you've got your blend C 515-12 or 615-12, you've got your high C 628-23 or 10-24-20 or other variants. The most important thing again is to match the basal fertilizer with your soil report, which one will suit what you're trying to get in terms of your nutrients. So the fertilizers that are available are vast. It just depends on what the soil has said and what your target is.
I want us to look at the new technological advancements that are coming in. I want you to talk to us in terms of the supplements a Zimbabwean farmer can take advantage of in onion production.
Okay, so if I can take a step back with the basals that we were talking about, it's about 500 to 600, 700, depending on the soil report, for a high C that you need to get a high yield crop. So if you look at that, for you to be able to apply that amount of fertilizer, that amount of NPK from a fertilizer in a bottle, it's really not practical.
It's not feasible.
Yes, but what we can say is we do acknowledge that foliar fertilizers are critical because then we need the other trace elements. We've got a number 16, 17 essential nutrients, so we can't all fit all of them in a bag. So that's where the foliar fertilizers now come in. You'll find that if you come in with your basal at 600-700, you also then come in with your top dressing AN, making sure that you don't apply too much nitrogen, because too much nitrogen is not good for onion, especially because you have thick necks, and at the end of of the day, then the keeping quality is affected and everything. So you need to watch your nutrients throughout the season. At times you find that other farmers use calcium nitrate, and then later on at week 6 to week 8, you find farmers using potassium sources, because the potassium will give the crop the keeping quality. And then now the foliar fertilizers, we've got a number in the market, the likes of NutriStart, which will then apply maybe around 6-7 days from now, in the first 1 or 2 weeks, to give the crop the phosphorus that we're talking about and to get it up. Then we also have NutriGrow, which has got high nitrogen and then the trace elements. So then it comes and delivers the nitrogen in bits and pieces throughout the growing season to help the crop to have that green leaf, but without over applying the nitrogen that is required. So it's important to keep a healthy leaf so that the bulb can be taken care of. And then NutriBloom is normally the last one. It's normally used in flowering crops, where you want to ensure that there's enough potassium for the fruit set to happen and all that. So that's a 3-phase range that's available, and it's got trace elements and chelates, and it's got hormones. These guys are really getting clever, and we are getting clever as technical people to know what is required throughout the growing season. So that does help to make sure that the crop gets everything it requires.
Now, Liz, as we close this segment, generally our Zimbabwean farmers equate size to profitability. Can you talk to us in terms of the direct relationship between the size of the bulb size of the onion to the nutrients applied, for starters? Secondly, the relationship between nutritional requirements, fertilizer application, with the disease tolerance or disease eradication within onion production.
Okay, so I'll talk about just the balance that's required. I always say that you find if you're applying a lot of chemicals, you're not doing your nutrition right. So the first thing is to ensure that your crop nutrition is right.
Yes.
And then from there you find that you still have to take care of the child. But at the end of the day, you have less incidences. So nutrition, I'll talk of potassium, is one of my favorite nutrients because it helps with a lot of things, stresses, if there's a lot of heat, if there's a lot of, it's your quality nutrient. That's what I call it, because it helps you get the crop there. So if you ensure that your crop has got sufficient, like things like potassium, you've done half the job. Then you come in with your chemicals to supplement. And then to comment on size, we want to make money out of this. So we want to know what the market wants. Market kazhinji aitoriwo mazihombe.
Yes.
Inenge chido size ihombe asi iriwo hombe.
Yekuti akatocheka akabika yatopera hapana zvekuzosiya.
And then in saying that there are restaurants vanotodawo mazihombe. Saka iwo kazochirima manje uri kuda vai vari kuda mazihombe. Then my restaurants, they are taken care of. Now who is going to take you see? So you need to then decide what size you are growing for the market.
Yes.
And then you come in, you say, Liz, indoda onion hombe. Ngati feed onion yedu itase ikure. Inyasoita hombe nekuti nini customer yangu yakati ndikuda 5 manonzikana ndikaisa 5 ndakutoti $. Unotaka kura. You see, but it comes from the market first before you even decide.
On that note, viewers, have come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agri Business, in support of Vision 2030. Today, we are coming to you from Mashonaland East in Mutoko at Gwiranenzara Irrigation Scheme, where a farmer, Mr. Nyikayaramba, is undertaking onion production as a formidable business. Last year, he had 900,000 onion bulbs that he sent to the market. This year, he increased his target to 3 million onions, which is the case today. We are witnessing him transplanting. He does as his team, which is sorting and grading the size of the onion that is being transplanted into the main field. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wazanai Manyore. So 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agri Business with Wazanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agri Business with Wazanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Agri Business 110. Earlier on, for the break, Liz was enlightening us in terms of the size of the bulb and its relationship with what the market expects. Liz, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Adzanai.
I would like us to talk about the diseases that you might want to highlight during transplanting. What are we looking at? Before we even look at the diseases, I want us to look at the hardening process, the final stage that happens at the seedbed before transplanting into the main field. Talk to us in terms of hardening in onion production.
So I'll just maybe highlight on the importance of hardening, because you find that we're looking at this crop today, and then maybe in the next 5 or so days it will be totally different. The most important thing before you come to the field is to harden, is preparing the seedling for the harsher conditions, because in the nursery you are taking, like, it's a nursery, you are taking care of the crop, you are giving it everything, water and everything. If you then transplant such a seedling to come to the field, you know, it's used to being given everything. So now when you then come to the field, it's going to struggle. And then when it struggles, now Takuti stand has been lost. Because now the farmer said he's targeting 3 million. If the hardening process is not done properly, you end up at maybe 2.5 million. And then you find that he's already lost part of his yield. Yes. So hardening is preparing a child or an onion to get to the field so that he can perform. Just like vana chaivo kutozoti mwana kwenda ukresh achibva ukresh yakwenda kwa school, you have to make sure kuti mwana ari prepared to mix with other people.
Yes.
Because kana ari kumbaka everything akati akuda kudya akupiwa akati chi, but now you have to train the child, pane break, pane lunch, pane itori hardening.
Yes.
To prepare the child to say you are going into the world, not everything is going to work the way it was working here.
Yes.
You have to know there are times. So hardening is technically doing that for the crop.
Okay, looking at disease management or chemicals or the active ingredients, can you talk to us in terms of ways in which you can mitigate the risks that comes with diseases, insect pests that might want to attack the onion crop during these vulnerable stages? So
you'll find that transplant in general, they will have issues with cutworms. So you find that it's important for a farmer to then apply lambda just to take care of their population, because that's where some of the population goes if you don't do that. So if you've got a cutworm incident, you don't apply the lambda, then you lose your population. So that's a very critical point to highlight. And then I want to also talk about the major diseases. So you find that in terms of fungicide application, it's important for the farmer to manage the various fungicides that are available in the market. So there are a number of, regular, fungicides that you apply to ensure that your crop is taken care of, and you try and protect. They're protective. And then you find that there are those that are eradicative. Now there's an issue. We want to come in and make sure that the crop survives, and there's a disease and we can see it and it's evident. We don't want to get to a point where the disease is seen. We want to get to the end, if possible, with a clean crop. Yes. Because the moment we see the disease, the damage is already done. So we don't want to see the damage. We would rather keep the crop clean throughout the season. So it's important to come in with the preventative fungicides earlier, the likes of your mancozeb, because you have issues there, things like powdery mildew, downy mildew, mancozeb and things like that, macometa, metalaxyl and mancozeb. They are critical to get things to be spraying as a routine spray every week or bi-weekly, exchanging active ingredients, because you also don't want to have the same active ingredient throughout. And then when you've got issues, now there's a problem. Now you need a stronger combination, the likes of azoxystrobin and defeconazole, which come in various names, Mr. Top or Optistrobi. So you come in with those and then try and take care of that down mildew, if it is what mildew you're facing, and then apply that Optistrobi, and then you get a cleaner crop. And then we talk of pepper blotch. I think pepper blotch is probably the biggest disease. Everyone who does onions, I think even if you are Googling, if you're starting as a new farmer, they'll say, what am I going to do about pepper blotch? It's like the war in onion production. So for pepper blotch, follicule, okay, or tebuconazole, which is the active ingredient, is what you then need to. There are a number of variations, but this is what you need to ensure that your crop is disease free. Okay, finally, as we close this segment, Liz, I want us to look at weeds management. What kind of chemicals can we use? Off the camera, we were talking of the salt weed. We are on the musoso. It's very tasty, it's very salty, savory. Can you talk to us in terms of ways in which you can control weeds, or the type of weeds that are mainly found in onion enterprises? So you find that early on, just after transplanting, there are like 3 options of actually just after establishment in the field. There are 3 options of herbicides that you can use that are generally in the market. There's linuron, there's oxidizon, there's oxyflofen. Those 3 are the main ones, and then you select one depending on what your so they do broadleaf and grasses. And then it depends, is the crop direct seeded? If it's direct seeded, it's one herbicide. Is the crop a transplant? What are you trying to get at, and when do you want to apply? Things like that, and your irrigation scheduling, things like that will help you decide which herbicide to use. But in general, those are the herbicides that you use to get your broadleaf and your grasses. And then you come in, even if you want to come in a bit later for grasses only, you have things like fluorocefop, fusilade. You then come in and clear your grasses. So those are the herbicides that are available in the market at the moment.
Thank you so much, Liz, for such a detailed presentation. I would like to believe our audience there at home was taking notes when it comes to onions establishment. Some might not have done their seedbed themselves. They are going to be purchasing seedlings from other companies that are into that. But at the same time, they still need the knowledge on how to undertake their projects in a way that is sustainable and viable. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much, Wazanai, for inviting me.
On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agri Business. We are here in the third and final segment of your program. And as I've highlighted earlier on today, we have once again visited Mr. Nyika Yaramba kuno kugira nenzara irrigation scheme kwa Mutoko kwavari kuita mabasa awo ekurimwa kweonion. Gore rapera vanyika Yaramba vanga vaine 900,000 maplants eonion avakaendesa kumarket vachisunga mumabhanduru, mamwe e20, mamwe e25, mamwe e30 zvichienda zvakadaro. Asi gore rino wawedzera target yavo kusvika ku3 million maonion avari kudyara. Tatosvika vari pakati pekudyara nepakuita basa ravo. Vanyika Yaramba ndinokuchingamidzai pachirongwa.
Tinotenda Wadzanai.
Yes.
Tofara nekwakwe pano.
Tichipinda muchirongwa chedu vanyika Yaramba, ndiri kuona patasvika apa pane mabasa akasiyana-siyana. Mutori netimu yenyu iri pano. Kune vanga vachiita vachidyara, pane madzimai andiri kuona ari kuno, pane mirwi yembeu yakasiyana-siyana. Chii chiri kuitika panguva dzino kubva mukudzura munursery bed kusvika patakamira panapa?
Okay. Nyaya iyi iri kuitika panapa ndeyegrading. Sezvauri kuona tine masaizi akasiyana-siyana. Chikonzero chinoita kuti tigrade mbeu kudai, tikaidzika chingoti chero ingori onion, tongodzika yese kamwe chete, inenge iri dikiya, tikaisanganisa nehombe inonokurirwa pakukura kwayo,
padevelopment.
Right. Saka kana yatokurirwa zvakurati ichangoramba iri diki,
kachangoramba kangori kaduku,
kakaondoroka toti yakuvhungwa handitika. Saka kugrade kuchange grade according nemasize adzinawo from seedbed. Todzidzikazve zichienderana zvakadaro kumunda. Tichiitira nyaya iyoyo yekuti tive nema-uniform bulbs. Zvakureva kuti hapana atichazorasa kana taakuharvesta. Nenyaya yekuti idiki handitika. Ikangodzika iri diki dzinozongokura kunosvika futi
pasaizi iri nayo,
pasaizi yakanaka isa iyoyoyo. Asi chikonzero ndekuti tadzidzika dzakaita sei,
dziri padzo dzega. Alright. Vanyika Yaramba ndiri kuona mine mibhedha yamakatogadzira. Mibhedha yenyu yakakura zvakadi pakufara, pakureba, uye pamuri kudyara pakutransplanter zvabva pagrading panapa. Ndaona pagrading panapa vari kuisa masaizi akasiyana-siyana, and at the same time vari kuita sevanogura kubvisa mashizha. Patori nemirwi yemashizha yavari kubvisa paonion. Zviri kuitirwe izvozvo, uye mibhedha yenyu yakakura zvakadi, uye panyaya yemvura muri kutanga madiridza modyara here kana muri ngoti muchipedza kudyara mubva matodiridza, zvakamira sei?
Right, ida kutanga pasaizi yemabeds. Size yemabeds yakafara ma1.2 meter nema1 meter. Then kureba kwawo panapa pakati rebei up to 90 meters, okay. 80 to 90 meters kuya kunosvika kubva kutanga kuya kunako.
Okay.
Chatinodamburira mashizha eonion ndeyekuti tikaisima ine mashizha ayo, zvakureva kuti inenge ichiri kufunga kuti ini ndichiri kungoramba ndichienderera mberi neupenyu.
Ndiri munesari.
Saka mashizha anenge achitoda mvura yakawanda. Anowanda anozostressa plant yedu chaiyo yada kuti idi
kumidzi kubhaubhu.
Nekuti midzi taibvisa yafa handitika. Saka yada kutotanga zvemimwe
kutanga kutobata futi paivhu
nekuti midzi iyi iripo iyi dai paine nguva yakakwana taifana kutoibvisazve nekuti haichina basa ipi. Iyo midzi haina basa
yakutinotanga upenyu hutsva.
Ikunotanga upenyu hutsva. Handiti ndosaka tichidambura mashizha. Saka tikadambura mashizha tikada kuisiya apa toti apa nekuti apa takaihadheni handiti tikada kuisiya izvozvo yakadai inoswera nhasi igoswera mangwana. Tikada kutosima chero swera mangwana tinoisima ichirarama. Pasina yafa ipapapo iri zvairi izvozvo. Ndosaka tichidambura mashizha.
Zvakamira sei panyaya yenyu yemvura pakurimwa peonion apa pasvondo munodiridzira mazuva mangani uye chinokurakidzai kuti ivhu iri ranzwira zvaright ngatichimbomira zvakamira sei?
Panyaya yekusima onion inoda kusimwa paine mutota. Saka apo tinototi kana tada kusima totanga tadiridza like apa pane ndima iyoyo ndatotanga ndadiridza ndichidiridza nezuro yandakasima nezuro kutanga ndichibva ndasima zvekumwe kwacho kusare ndichibva ndadiridza kumwe kwacho kwatoda kudi
kwamuda kuzosima futi.
Patinoda tadiridza ndetika tikasima kana tikashaya mvura yekuzouya pamusoro nekuchimbidza asi unyorewo hunoita kuti onion yedu ikwanise kurarama kudevelopa mimwe midzi mitsva. Handitika in 4 to 5 days inofana kunge ane yato nemwe midzi mitsva. Handiti then pakudiridza onion neoverhead ndima iyi yatakaita sanayo is 0.5. Handitika iri 0.5 tinoikata into 4 pieces. Saka todiridza first portion nhasi mangwana up to 4th portion, then we'll be back again per first portion here in day 5. In day 5 ndo patinoita sei. Saka tingangoti pasvondo onion yedu tishandisa overhead inowana mvura kangani kaviri.
Imimi semurimi taakupendera chirongwa chingadaro chikonzeresa mamortalities kufa kweonion chii uye varimi vangagadha sei kuti zvakadaro zvisaitika?
Ipapa toda kuzokera ku seedbed. Ku seedbed ngatirege kuwanza AN. Handiti tikanga tadyara onion yedu necompound then yabuda toisa compound yakasangana neAN kamwe chete tobva tasiya nani nazvo toshandisa mafoliar fertilizer. Handitika anga achataurwa aya ekutangisa. Handiti inoita kuti ibatsire kuti midzi
ana nutri-start.
Wana nutri-start. Then tadaro takuona isusu kuti takuda kunoachivha pencil size. Handiti takuchita chiti kana tanichididza katatu per week. Handiti tofana kuchinyima mvura todidza kana kuti kamwe chete. Zvakureva kuti mbeu yedu inoenda zvinoita sekunosava zvishoma nezvishoma tosvika pambuto tinotojamba kana 1 week kuidiridza. Zvakureva kuti inosimba. Kana yasimba zvanyore kuti patinoitransplant haichafi. Asi tikawanza AN then toitransplant zvakare ichiri nhete tisina mbobvira taita yekunonyimira yekunohadhena. Zvinoreva tine dambudziko rekuti kana kuchipisa ukona sezvakuri kuita izvi inofa. Izvo titori pagrading apa tingadai tisitombori pazuva apa tikutogara iri pazuva nemhaka
nokuti imbeu yakanyatsohadhena yakasvika isisiri nhete. Ndoda kutendai zvikuru vanyika yaRamba nekuramba muchititendera kuuya kumunda kwenyu tichiona mabasa amunoita. Ndoziva takaona muchiita nzungu mukaita onion zvakare. Ndoda kutendai zvikuru nekutitendera kuuya mumusha wenyu.
Tinotenda nekuuyawo kwamuri kuita.
There you heard it, viewers. We were here in Mutoko at Gwira Nenzara Irrigation Scheme, where we were making a follow-up to Mr. Nyika yaRamba, an horticultural farmer who is undertaking horticulture as a formidable business. Last year he had 900,000 plants of onions, and this year he was moved his target to 3 million onion bulbs. From me, your host was Zana Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.